President-elect Biden is expected to announce new members of his cabinet later on today as he presses on with the transition despite obstruction on the part of President Trump. The Biden-Harris team is also set to get national security briefings, but are still being denied a presidential daily briefing since Mr. Trump has yet to concede. The president-elect spoke about the refusal to start the transition and the lack of new COVID-19 economic relief packages.
The idea the president is still playing golf and not doing anything about it is beyond my comprehension. You'd at least think he'd want to go off on a positive note. But what is he doing? I find this more embarrassing for the country than debilitating for my ability to get started.
For the latest on the transition now, let's bring in Nikole Killion, who is in Wilmington, Delaware. Nikole, thanks so much for joining us. So despite the pointed language toward the president, Mr. Biden is pressing on with forming his team. What do we know about the new additions expected to join the incoming administration?
Well, good morning to you and Marie. And CBS News has learned that Louisiana Congressman Cedric Richmond and Biden campaign manager Jen O'Malley Dillon have been offered positions in the new administration. And keep in mind, Richmond was someone who joined the Biden camp early, was a campaign co-chair. Jen O'Malley Dillon was, of course, his famed campaign manager who came in early on into the caucus primary process. You remember the president-elect at the time wasn't doing so well in places like Iowa and New Hampshire. She was brought in and really kind of helped change the trajectory of his campaign. So those are some of the names that we're hearing. We do expect more staffing announcements soon, likely as early as today, with regard to a White House staff. But we do expect that the president-elect will likely name some other longtime advisors to senior positions within the White House. And of course, we continue to wait for those bigger names as far as who the president-elect will name to his cabinet. We're expecting those will likely come perhaps in the next several weeks.
The president-elect and vice president-elect spoke about their economic plan yesterday. What were the biggest takeaways?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway, and it's a point that the president-elect has raised before, is that there really is no economic recovery without getting the pandemic under control. And so he talked about trying to get relief to unemployed workers, to small businesses, and he reissued a call to Congress to pass a coronavirus relief package similar to what the House put on the table in the HEROES Act. He also laid out some more of his own proposals, which broadly speaking, range from, trying to create more jobs through manufacturing, clean energy, infrastructure. But again, you kind of can't get to that phase without dealing with the pandemic. Of course, President-elect also met with business and labor leaders on Monday and really emphasized that he wants both sides to continue to come to the table and to be able to work together to also offer solutions going forward.
So let's talk about the coronavirus response. Vice President Pence, who's the head of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, he held a call with governors yesterday. What did we learn about the federal response to the pandemic?
Well, the vice president tried to reassure states that the federal government is still there as a resource and ready to help in a number of ways, whether it's with regard to testing, whether it's regard to, hospital capacity and the like. Certainly, there has been some concern as far as the president is concerned that he hasn't been taking part in some of these coronavirus task force briefings for months now. And so the vice president really in recent weeks, now that the election has ended, kind of continuing to pick up the charge in terms of leading that effort and keeping those governors in the loop. We do know the Health and Human Services Secretary was on that call, as well as Dr. Deborah Birx. Some of the concerns that the governors had is just that, a lot of people are having pandemic fatigue, in the word of one governor on that call. And so it has made it challenging, for them to be able to try to get ahead of this.
Did the governors express their feelings on the Trump administration's lack of coordination with the Biden transition team?
Well, we do know, broadly speaking, some have issued concern really on both sides of the aisle. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan perhaps had some of the most pointed comments, not necessarily on the call, but just generally speaking. He did make some comments Monday saying that, this is like being in a war without a general, and that, you can't wait until the inauguration to try to coordinate. And we heard as much from the president-elect yesterday here in Wilmington, where in essence he said more people could die from the coronavirus if there is not that coordination, and that this could set their efforts back. So certainly there continues to be a renewed push to try to get the administration to get to that point of ascertainment where they do recognize the president-elect, so that they can start working and talking to these federal agencies again to try to coordinate.
All right, Nikole Killion, thank you so much.